Yeah. Okay. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, if we'll settle down, we'll get started here in just a second. Is it on the podium?
It is on the table.
It is not on the table any longer. It is on the table. Okay, I just can't see it from here. There's a sign-up sheet if you wish to speak to any of the four bills we have before us this afternoon. House Bill 56, House Bill 150, House Bill 172, and House Bill 217. We're in a position, we have substitutes for both House Bill 56 and 172. That we'll go over those, and we'll be in a position to take action if the committee is ready. 150 and 217 we'll be hearing for the first time and taking questions on those. So if you would, please sign up. Otherwise, we're going to get this kicked off. Chairman Petrie, are you ready? We're going to we'll let you wind us up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I am ready. Turn on your table, Mike. Pull that a little closer to you, if you would.
All right.
Yep. Make sure we're on the same page here. I have HB 50 LC 394603S. Is that what you're working from? Substitute?
Did you say 4603S?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, that is correct.
Yes,
that is the new substitute, House Bill 56, amended after leaving this meeting the other day, the initial hearing, and addressing some of the concerns, everyone's concerns in the room. Mr. Chairman, again, just to give the broad overview, what we're trying to do here is to the Georgia Student Finance Commission's Georgia Public Safety Memorial Grant for individuals that are law enforcement officers, firefighters, and prison guards who are either killed in the line of duty or permanently disabled in the line of duty. We have a scholarship available to their children, and we're expanding that to spouses of those individuals. That is what we're doing. The changes that were made, if you will look at, let me get my information out. And Mr. Chairman, I'll digress for a moment to just mention, there's some information being passed out now from the Student Finance Commission showing you exactly where they are today. You can see their reserves there, right at $4 million in reserve. So they are doing quite well, and you'll see there where some of their contributions are coming from. All of that is there before you, and Miss Haley Corbett, who is wonderful, by the way, to work with and most capable, is here to answer any questions on their behalf as well. But Mr. Chairman, there were a couple of things we discussed the other day beyond, beyond the superficial, and that was, it was clearly the will of the body to allow a part-time path for spouses, seeing them, in a different posture from the children of these individuals. And so if you will look on line 27, Mr. Chairman, you will see that we now speak to, and when we define the academic year, we're speaking the 9 or more credit hours per term or semester, or in which a part-time student is expected to complete the equivalent of 8 or less credit hours per term per semester. So we've captured in here for the first time the ability for spouses to attend part-time. I want to also emphasize a new section, okay? It's real important. If you'll look at the new section, Section 3, Mr. Chairman, while we were working with Legislative Council to add this new language to capture a part-time path, we realized that the statute that you see, the code section you see there, 452, noted in Section 3, had not been updated since 1972. And so where we had eligible funding at the sum of $2,000 annually, or not more than $18,000 per year. We've changed that to $18,000 per year, and it was $2,000, $8,000. We've raised that to $18,000, $72,000. Now, to be clear, that's what we're paying now, but it wasn't in the statute. So we've adapted to the fee increases, but we never changed it in statute, we discovered, and so now we're right-sizing it. So you have $18,000 a year and $72,000 during the life of the grant, and which is obviously 4 years at the $18,000 a year. So that whole new section has been added, Mr. Chairman. The last thing the third thing that was changed, there was a question that Representative Clark had about the language ensuring that we had volunteers and volunteers who were working after, what's the term? After hours, off duty, that's the term I was looking for. And so what we've done is change that language. You'll see there in Section 35 on down to 45, basically we've just taken all that language out, and so here's what we know from Legislative Council now, the way this is drafted. We don't talk about off-duty, we don't talk about volunteer. If they are either on line 32, if they are appointed, employed, or regularly enrolled, they're covered. That includes volunteers, and it includes on-duty or off-duty. So we've encapsulated all of that by kind of changing the language altogether, because to Representative Clark's comment, there was concern about, we thought it was covered, but to be real clear, changed it all together. That's simply what we've done. Now I think we've perfected this to make it better than it was last year when we sent it over to the Senate.
Chairman Petrie, thank you for the presentation. You have a couple of questions.
Yes, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Number one, Representative Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for bringing the bill. I just, as a daughter of a police officer, I understand the premise behind, I remember last year. Mm-hmm. But I will say on behalf of Major Barney, he was the first police officer killed in Riverdale, city of Riverdale, and he was also my friend. Mm-hmm. And the one battle that his wife has more than anything else is the fact that she cannot collect his retirement. And I do believe that that would be more beneficial for these wives to be able to get their husband's retirement when they are shot or killed in the line of duty. And I just want to make that comment because there is nothing in Georgia law that requires, and she's been asking the city of Riverdale and they tell her no, they don't have to because there's nothing that makes them. So I just think that would make the wife or the mother more whole to get that instant money than to have to go to school and earn a job. I mean, I'm okay with your bill, but I just want to make that comment.
Understood. Thank you, Representative. Again, that would be contemplated in another code section, and I don't have expertise in that. I agree with, we have a high-profile, the chairman lost a high-profile officer this week, sadly, terrible tragedy. And so we continue to have, and just as an aside, if you'll look at, y'all should have all received this data breakdown from the Student Finance Commission. We served 43 students in 2024. So all of those are the children of individuals killed in the line of duty or permanently disabled in the line of duty. So individuals, it happens, and yes, we need to continue to do those things that might be better. I can't contemplate that in this bill, but I appreciate your comments.
Again, I'll follow up with Representative Bernal. I happen to also sit on the retirement committee. I think that's something, worthy of a look. I don't know if that would be a fiscal bill. I think that would, I can't tell you exactly where that would go, but I'm sure Chairman Carson would entertain that if you or some colleagues wanted to look at Legislative Council to help clear that up for that. Don Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you again for bringing the bill, and thank you for taking my concerns into consideration. So I just want to clarify, because the last bill had that the last version of this bill had that they would be eligible for this funding if they were killed in the line of duty or if they were off duty, but basically saving someone's life or doing what they would have been doing if they were in the line of duty.
Correct.
This version now takes the off-duty completely out and just says killed in the line of duty. Is that the way that I'm reading that correctly?
Yes, ma'am.
Right, perfect.
If they
Thank
are
you.
actively in the line of what is typically their duty in this role as appointed, employed, or regularly enrolled, they're covered. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you for the good question on that last meeting.
Further questions? Further questions? We didn't have anyone signed up to speak on this bill. This is a second go around for this bill, and I would if the hang on one second if you would. I would just like to take a moment of personal privilege from the chair and elaborate further that not just the city of Roswell lost Jeremy Labonte last Friday night. To a tragic situation. He never had a chance in responding to a suspicious person call and was taken from us way too soon in the line of duty. He does leave behind a young wife, and should this pass, she would be eligible for this benefit, subject to all the things the boxes that need to be checked and that so forth. So it's ironic, if not also timely, that this is being looked for. It does impact people's lives. So thank you for the moment to that and to recognize the officer. If there are no further questions, we have House Bill 56 LC 394603S before us. What's the pleasure of the committee? I have a motion to pass. Is there a second? I have a motion and a second that this move on to rules with a due pass recommendation. Is there any discussion? Discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, no. It passes unanimously. Moving on to rules, you know the drill is to get the rules form
Thank you,
filled
Chairman.
out.
Thank you, members of the committee.
We're going to go on to the next bill. If we may be out of order here, but with the next one, we've in a place to take action on House Bill 172. House Bill 172 LC 610124S. Representative Huddleston.
Yes, sir, that's correct, Mr. Chairman.
And if Representative, if you will allow me, I worked with the author and asked him to entertain these changes, and he did. So if at his okay, I'll explain the two changes you see on the bill.
Yes, sir.
They are on line 38. you'll see 20,000 went to 22.5, and I'll explain more of that later. On the back, on line 46, it's used to say term of 3 years, it says 4. As the gentleman presented to us before, we're moving the loan amount from 80 to 90, and it had read go from 20 to 30, which meant for the $90,000, we were only getting a contract to do the loan payoff for 3 years, and so they were getting more money for less commitment to the state. And quite frankly, I think that was because 30 went into 90 an even number of times. So I suggested, and the gentleman agreed, that we keep the same time commitment, because that gives the vet the opportunity to, if you will, earn the loan back with people of Georgia. It also gives them that 4th year to set up a business, because we want it to be good for them, and we hope they'll stay after 4 years. So those are the two changes to the gentleman's proposition. And with that, if you'll just go over the whole item real quickly again for the committee.
Like I said, this bill I presented the other day, thank you for allowing me to do that, is basically the tuition reimbursement program for veterinarians. Basically, we see a dire need within the state for large animal food industry vets. Right now, there's an existing 1-year program, and they have to reapply each year, and it was, like I said, possibly up to 3 years. So basically, what we was looking at doing was basically allowing them to apply for the program and then be consecutively for 3 years. As we discussed the other day, we saw that a lot of times it allows them to serve, to earn back, to work 20 hours per week in the rural counties, 118 counties, that they can practice large animal food industry veterinary medicine and have it be a residence into another county. Basically, we had a lot of discussion the other day that we saw that getting them established into the communities, allow them to serve in those rural communities, hopefully within the time of payback, they would get established and hopefully stay in those rural communities. So as of the conversation we had the other day, basically changing it to 4 consecutive years, hopefully allows them that more time to get established, and hopefully they'll stay. And so with the $90,000 stay-in, basically it equivalated it to be 22.5. So that's pretty much kind of the gist. It's just seeing the dire need of large food animal industry vets in the state.
Questions to the gentleman? Number 27, who's that? Is it? Chairman Dickey.
It's not so much a question, but I just want to let this committee know. I just want to thank Representative Huddleston for working on this issue for the last 2 years.
Yes, sir.
Trying to increase the number of large animal vets for our agricultural industry. And we've seen it a lot in our ag committee last year and this year. We have a severe shortage of large animal veterinarians in this state to minister our livestock industry, our poultry industry, our horse industry, and those industries are being hampered right now because of the lack of vets from growth. And we talk a lot about economic growth in this state, and we've done a lot of things to expand it with education, workforce development. And I see a representative from USG here, and I want to challenge our USG to look at expanding our vet school, or either a new vet school in the state that would really minister to our ag and industry, and it's sorely needed. We're falling further behind. So just wanted this committee to understand that it's widespread all over. Thank you.
I appreciate it, Chairman Dickey. I want to remind the committee, if we'll do questions right now, I'll give everybody the opportunity for comments and on debate. So if we have questions for the gentleman, I'll recognize you later for debate. Any questions? No, I see no further questions. We have no speakers on the matter. We have before us LC 360124S, a substitute for House Bill 172. Okay, I may have said the wrong LC number she's pointing. I'm looking at did I just speak it wrong? That's the correct number, right?
Yeah, 24S.
Did I say 12S? Maybe, all right. Sometimes I get things backwards. LC 610124S.
Correct.
That's what I meant. Now, House Bill 172. What's the pleasure of the committee on this item? I have a motion that do pass. Is there a second? I have a motion and a second. Now, some of y'all had your buttons pushed. You wanted to say some things. I'll come back to you right now. Number 15, Representative Glaze.
Well, first of all, I want to say to my colleague, thank you for bringing this bill. I just met with the Coweta Cattlemen's Association, and they are certainly supporting this, and we need more large animal vets in that area. And again, their support is with you, and my support is with you. Thank you for bringing the bill.
Thank you for your support.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for bringing this bill. I definitely support it. I have mirrored it to try to provide Georgia with more vets that are not just large animal, but we definitely need large animals. So I appreciate you bringing light to this issue.
Thank you.
The Vice Chairman was just asking me if you mean large animal vets or large animal vets. No, we know what you mean. Is that a question? Is there any further discussion? The gentleman has a good the gentleman has a good proposition here. A little levity doesn't hurt us at this point in session. Any further discussion on the gentleman? The motion is let's move forward to rules with due pass recommendation. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Any opposed, no. You move forward to rules with a unanimous recommendation out of House Higher Ed. You also know the form.
Yes, sir. Thank y'all to the committee. Thank y'all.
We have two additional items. Is the floor to hear? Yes, Representative Hong, please come forward. Representative Fleming is presenting someplace else, so he was looking to go last. So. Oh, he's there now. Well, he's going to be here for us. He's going to be here with us anyway. You may have other places you need to be after your presentation. All right, let me try my try again with LC numbers. LC 610078.
That's correct, Chairman.
Okay, 217. You tell us about your proposition.
Thank you, Chairman, and members of the committee. I present House Bill 217. Just a little bit of a background. In 2021 through SB 204, we created a dual achievement pilot program. And what it does essentially is take students that have failed out or is no longer in high school and allow them a different path and giving them a choice through our technical colleges to not only get their high school diploma, but also a technical certificate. There are 5 pilot sites, and this pilot program was to operate for 5 years. The pilot sites are Albany Technical College, Athens Technical College, Atlanta Technical College, Central Georgia Technical College, and Chattahoochee Technical College. All 5 of those sites are accredited through Cognia, and so therefore the students are able to get their high school courses completed and graduate from high school. So instead of essentially they will get a high school diploma at the end. There are certain admission criteria. So in order to participate in this program, you have to have at least completed 6 required high school courses, withdrawn from high school, sign a waiver, and be between the ages of 16 to 21 years old. And in order to graduate from the program, you would have to have completed the remaining high school courses, and all the courses are taken at these technical colleges, and I'll kind of go into that a little bit later, but also earn college credentials and earn a high school diploma. Since the start of the program, which was in fall of 2023, there was an enrollment in fall 2023 of 704 students. Come fall of 2024, the enrollment was 982 students, and in spring of 2025, there's 904 students who have enrolled in this program. So far, it has served 2,322 students. It's graduated 344 high school graduates and given 898 college credentials to these students. So again, this will allow for students who did not do well and was withdrawn from high school to have a different route and take these courses and eventually get a high school diploma as well as a technical certificate where they're able to go ahead and get a job after the program. This obviously helps with our workforce. It helps with those students that may have never gotten a high school diploma eventually. And the other positive benefit is that those students who receive this dual or are in the program will receive the dual enrollment funding for essentially, and they may not have been eligible for HOPE, but they would have been able to go ahead and get funding from this program and actually get some college credentials and certificates. There are, again, 5 sites. However, there are 15 TCSG partner colleges. And so these students, depending on where you live, these colleges are also participating where the students are able to go to different sites and receive courses as well. I have Mark Peavy from TCSG. If Chairman, you would allow him to just make a quick statement about the program and how it's been going since its inception, and then I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any committee members object to hearing from Mr. Peavy? Just wanted to, Mark, of course, you're welcome to speak to the committee.
And and just to summarize, I forgot to mention the important part. So this bill will make this program permanent. And so that's what we're trying to do with this bill, is to try to make this, instead of it being a pilot program, to make it a permanent program because of its success. And based on, we already have budgeting as far as the 5 years. And given going forward after those 5 years, there are ways that they're looking at to support this, not to maybe through private funding, maybe through current school funding, in different areas of funding. But if they need any additional state funding, obviously they'll have to come back to appropriation.
So, Representative, you messed up the chair's, good-natured attempt to properly recognize and haze Mr. Peavy for his new role as with the commissioner's office. That was the reason, Mark, that I wanted to haze a bit by asking you if we cared to hear from you. Tell us just real briefly that. The committee probably knows, but you've changed positions
yes,
since
Mr.
we
Chairman.
saw you last session. So tell us a little bit about that, and then follow up. Help the representative talk about her bill.
Appreciate that, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Dozier bumped his head really hard and asked me to be chief of staff and take over the role of chief of
Congratulations.
staff. And we were fortunate to be able to bring a former colleague of yours, Sam Teasley, on board to help backfill and handle some of our legislative pieces. So I appreciate the chance to share that. We also appreciate the chance for Mr. Chairman and the whole committee to hear from us. And this is a really important piece for us. We have been, I won't go back through all the details that are just already shared, but we're really excited about the chance to remove this pilot classification for this and make it a permanent part of what we do. A key piece to understand with all these students, we already talked about the numbers of students that have been in the program. These are students who have walked out of their high school building, aren't participating, they've dropped out altogether. And so they're wandering around in the ether, so to speak, and this program allows us to reach out through various community partners, and quite frankly, also in conjunction with our K-12 partners in the respective districts, who they know who these students are, but they're not in their building anymore, and so those partnerships allow us a chance to reach out and bring them back in. And really doing two things. These are students that in another world would show up at us on many of our doorsteps. Maybe 8-10 years later, as an adult at 26, 27, realizing I've got to do something. This gives us a chance to bring them back into the fold sooner rather than later. We're able to get them a high school diploma as opposed to just a high school credential. And I won't, many of you have seen the numbers about how much more impactful a high school diploma is as opposed to even just a high school credential. And so it allows us to do that. And in doing so, they're also picking up a technical college or a specific workforce related to skill. We've got some students who've actually completed associate's degrees as part of this. Most students complete a technical college certificate program. The number one program areas are most popular are automotive technology, welding, computer networking, criminal justice, and early childhood education. So I think I share those to say those are right in the wheelhouse of the shortages in many of those areas that we have across the state. And so this is giving each one of those students the chance to get, again, that high school diploma. that will carry with them forever, but also that jump start on a technical education that will serve them the rest of their life. And there's some great stories. Again, I won't bore you with those today, but we'll be happy to share of students who are really changing their own lives plus the lives of their family. The very first student that graduated from our program at Central Georgia Technical College actually became an employee of Central Georgia Technical College in their maintenance department very shortly after he completed his DAP program. So we're very excited to have things like that happen across the system in all 5 colleges. And so we would certainly appreciate your support as this moves forward. I'm happy to answer any other questions as we move forward.
Thank you, Mark. There are a couple of questions if that concludes your presentation. Number 28, Matthew Gamble, Representative Gamble.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To my floor leader colleague, Representative Hong, and my friend Mark Peavy, I appreciate you bringing this bill. I do have a few questions that I hope that you can just kind of help me understand a little bit better. But for students that meet this very defined category, which I do have to commend you on the bill for defining exactly who this is, that this is not wide open to a large group of students, but it meets a very narrow definition of the student population that we're after in allowing them to do this. The funding for these students, is that dual enrollment funding? Is that FTE? Is that HOPE? How are we paying for these students when they come to TCSG? Just to make sure I understand.
Yeah, happy to answer that. Thank you for the question. There was when the bill was passed 4 years ago, almost 4 years ago, there was an additional amount of money put in and has now been our base budget for each of the programs to get them started. We do have a high school-based staff, and so it was mentioned each one of these 5 colleges had to apply for the same Cogni accreditation that every other high school in the state of Georgia has, and along with that, the program requires you got to have 6 programs or 6 high school-based courses. Now, the core courses, if any of you are familiar with on the Department of Education side of the house, the Accelerated Career Diploma, if that rings a bell for any of you, it's the exact same pathway in terms of the high school-based courses that each student has to take, and then they move on to a technical college TCC certificate or diploma or degree program. And so when that student is in the high school phase, the initial appropriation, which was almost $5 million, so roughly $1 million per pilot site to begin with, is what covers the cost of the high school-based instructors. So we have high school-based instructors to teach those programs. We have career counselors. We have a traditional counselor that is a part of one of those and a director of each one of those programs. So that's what the money that's in our base budget covers, those 5 pilot programs, what you would call K-12 or high school-based programs. Once those students move over into the technical piece, they become just like any one of our other technical college students, and they get picked up, not dual enrollment dollars necessarily, depends on where they are in the stage, but then they get built into our funding formula, just as any other student does.
And would they be eligible for the HOPE grant?
Yeah, just like any other
Okay.
student. Yes,
All right.
absolutely
Understood.
right.
Mr. Chairman, one additional question that I have, and I know there's other questions, but the readiness assessment that they have to complete in order to participate, I know y'all used to have one in the past, but what is the readiness assessment that we use now just to determine where the students are at in that process? Is that
We actually, in terms of, we've had a couple different ones. The last one that we used to use was AccuPlacer, was the
That's the one I was thinking of.
readiness
Yeah,
assessment that we used to use. But with our open access mission, we no longer require an AccuPlacer score to place in the program, any of our programs, quite honestly. And so they come in and they're able to, with that open access piece, start with those high school-based courses in terms of these students, and then move on to the technical piece once they're ready. So.
Okay. And earlier, that number of how many students had done the pilot, what were the numbers you went over, Floor Leader Hong? I just wanted to make sure I heard that number.
So the total students served so far is 2,322 students.
Okay.
Is that what
Yep,
you were
thank
looking
you.
for?
That's all, Representative. Representative Bernard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for this program. I have 2 questions. Did you say that out of the 2,322 students, only 344 graduated did they graduate from high school, or did they graduate and obtain a certificate?
So 344 obtained a high school diploma, and 898 actually not only received a high school diploma, but also college credentials.
Okay. And then hypothetically, if we were to require students to be 18 years of age before participating in this program, how would that affect your program?
Do you want to answer that?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for that question. I think I'll start with why we started with the age of 16, because that, as we all know, that's the age that students can drop out of high school. And so if we were to change that for and require it to be 18 and up, I think the only answer would be we'd miss those 16 and 17-year-olds. I don't have a hard number of that. I could certainly provide one, and we could look back and see if we could find a hard number on how many 16 and 17-year-olds are included in these numbers, but that would be the only impact, is they wouldn't be eligible for the program. Again, it starts with students who have walked away from and dropped out of high school already, and so that's where we picked up at that 16-year age, because that's when students, typically those who may need this type of opportunity, that's the first opportunity for us to reach out and get them back in the fold, so to speak, so that we can get them in a program like this. So.
And do you do provide for those students who have learning disabilities?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you so much for bringing this bill. Thank you for the program. My question is actually very simple. This was a pilot program. It sounds like it's been going on for 4 years, so technically it had one more year. Am I understanding that correctly?
That's correct. We're towards the 5th year.
Yeah, so is the end of the 5th year the end of 2025 or the end of 2026?
2025. End of 2025.
End of 2020. So if this bill, hypothetically, if this bill did not get signed by the governor, then this program effectively ends this year, and we would have to come back and
That's
do it.
correct.
All right, thank you.
Representative Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think it's a wonderful program, but I'm interested in knowing is their pilot programs, how did you select the areas where you were going, and are any of the locations in the southern part of the state?
Do you want to answer that?
In terms of how we selected the programs, those 5 colleges were the first 5 to raise their hand and volunteer, but we also did try to get them in different parts of the state to make sure that the model would work in different areas. We certainly have a couple of them in the metro area. We have Central Georgia Tech, which is their program is based out of Warner Robins, but also serves the Macon area. And we've got one in Athens that serves that program. So we're also, and we mentioned it a bit, we're also looking to, and already have a number of other what we call partnering institutions who maybe don't have this program specifically at their college, but because we're able to offer the high school-based component, via our online or eCampus system, students, maybe a student who's at who lives in Brunswick and is at Coastal Pines Technical College, which does not have one of these programs but wants to participate, he or she can take those high school-based programs via eCampus under the auspices of, and I'll just use Central Georgia Technical College as an example. They take those high school-based programs under Central Georgia Tech's Cognia accreditation. They then can actually, at home in Brunswick, take a technical college program there, and when they complete that, Central Georgia Technical College can offer them the high school diploma. And so we've got 5 pilot sites, but we've been able to, through technology, through our eCampus program, we've been able to expand the number of colleges who can actually serve students under that same umbrella using those different opportunities. So.
Mr. Chairman, I have another question. Inasmuch as you've seen the success of the 5 that you have, are you talking about expanding some of the pilot programs down in the southern part, because there are a lot of technical areas, and even now within some of the public school systems, now that they're going so great, have you ever thought about, since you have a cluster that you've already used, are you thinking of increasing and trying to move into the southern part?
It is absolutely something we will consider. We also want to see the impact of how we can take the 5 programs that we have and satellite those out. There was an appropriation that came along with this, as mentioned before, with the 5 pilot sites. That is not something, we're not looking to come back and have 22 of these, if I could put it that way. But I think as we move forward, and assuming this bill does pass and we get the chance to consider where we might want to expand, we'll look to do that in the future. But we're also looking to maximize the 5 that we got, use current technology opportunities, and see how we can continue to expand the opportunity as opposed to the actual sites. It's the cost piece for us is on the high school-based programs, and that is what the appropriation helps cover. And so we'll look to see to maximize that. And if we find the opportunity and we need it, and it may very well be geographically based, and I think your point is well made, that may be something we do in the future. We want to take some time to evaluate that and figure out where we need to go next.
And Mr. Chair, just one more comment. Inasmuch as we have so much going on down with all of the companies that are moving into that area, I do think that you should consider doing something in the southern part. I always said before, make the Macon line, to see what can. You have Hyundai and all of those companies that are coming into those areas, and then with all the Gulfstream programs and what have you, this may be an ideal time to kind of consider and think about it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Park, Sam Park. I'm sorry, Mr. Whip, I didn't mean to demote you there. Whip Park.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To Floor Leader Hong, first and foremost, thank you so much for the bill. I think it's a critically important higher education kind of safety net program, it sounds like, to catch those at around 16 years old and who may have dropped out. The question I had, this may be more geared toward Mark. The bill states, the state board shall work with the Department of Juvenile Justice, the Department of Corrections. Does this also serve as kind of a diversion program for folks in the juvenile detention center? Because I'm curious to a certain extent, how you're reaching out to 16-year-olds who've dropped out. I do think that this could be a great way of potentially getting someone who's going down the wrong path on the right track. And if it is coupled with the criminal justice system, is there any data on rates of recidivism and how this may, again, provide some improvement there?
I don't have data on the recidivism right now. We also, there's 2 pieces to that to, I think, answer your question. One, we do serve and do work with DJJ and in their systems around the state already. Our connection point here with this particular program is that student who maybe gets a chance to do 1 or 2 pieces or does a little bit of technical training while they're in one of the DJJ facilities and they're getting released. This is a great next step for them. And so we do have some connection points. I don't know that I've got data specifically, but I certainly would lean in the direction of looking at what Central Georgia Technical College is doing, because they do the most work with some of their DJJ institutions. So we can look to see if we got that back for you. But in terms of the concept of how we make that connection, that really is how that connection works in terms of a student who may not have a year to work on these programs while they're in a DJJ facility, but as they step out, that work they've done can then roll over into this program.
Thank you.
And if I may, and so when I was learning more about this program, one of my questions was, how are you finding the students, especially if they've withdrawn from school, who is in contact with them? And so since the pilot program, there's been a lot of recruitment efforts, working with local schools. There's marketing campaigns out there, and so Whit Park, you make a good point of us, how we can reach more students to participate in the program, and I think that's something we can take back. Thank you.
You do have a couple more questions, but I want to inject one because it was one I was going to ask, and it's going to tag along to Whit Park's question. I would like, not holding the bill based on these numbers, but just out of curiosity, I'd love to have the number of students by source. And I understand there's privacy, there may be privacy issues based on the age of the students, and fully respect and personal identification personal identifying information withheld as, redacted as appropriate. But my interest is where the students are coming from, because I'm just going to, I come at both sides. The dark side of this is high schools that push their students out of a mainstream high school because they have this available, right? Because they can go like, okay, if you don't like it here, why don't you go over there? And you hope it works together, and y'all would probably be more aware of it. But I'd just be curious at how that's going, because high schools are under pressure for graduation rates, and if they see somebody that they don't think is going to graduate and so forth, I'd just be curious for those numbers, because you clearly, and we don't have to get there today. I don't want us to take on you don't have to take a long answer to it, but be interested to see where the number of students were by source. And Representative Hong, when you say 344 and 898, that's a cumulative number. So you add those two together for the people that actually got a high school diploma, right?
That's correct.
So those are cumulative. So I think that's pretty impressive. That's well over half. And then 898 went on past that. So it's that didn't the first time you said that, I didn't in my mind add those together, and they are. You have to have the high school diploma before you get additional things. So that you have a couple more questions. If Representative Barnes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for this bill. I think it's giving our students opportunity to further their careers where they could have gone down another path. Anyway, I want to know what happens if a student gets kicked out of school for disciplinary actions. Are they still able to participate in the program?
From our perspective, yes, ma'am, they are. I mean, partially to the chairman's point, there's no direct connection with these students, and that's one of the impetuses behind this pilot opportunity for us. These students are already off the books, off the record from their high school, and so if they have a disciplinary record, we may not even know about it. That's not a question that we ask. You've come to us, you want to get in this program, we want to get you moved through it. And so furthermore, just real quickly, Mr. Chairman, to your point, the Accelerated Career Diploma Program that is available at every high school in the state of Georgia and that the State Department of Education has helped pull together is exactly the model that we're using. So if a high school has a student who this path is amenable to them, they have this path in their high school. They can actually run them through this similar path and count them as a high school graduate in their very same high school. And so we only touch these students, if you allow me to use that word, maybe that's not a great word today, way to phrase that, but we only come. Yeah, exactly. We only access these students after they're completely off the books of their high schools, and so they've walked out of the building and they're done. But it's the same path that a student could take and there are some students who this is the right path for them to get to high school graduation, but they have that path in their high school also if that's what they need. So that's one of the benefits to it, is that if it's just about a student's applicability and what they want to do in terms of a path to graduate high school, they can use this same or almost exactly the same path while they're in their high school. This is the opportunity for us to pick them up when they made the decision for whatever reason to walk out altogether. They're wandering around in the wilderness, so to speak, and this is another opportunity for them to get that high school diploma as opposed to a credential or anything else.
So instead of a GED, they'll get a real diploma.
Yes, ma'am, that's exactly right.
Thank you.
Well, first of all, I want to say again, thank you so much for going after that group of students that we cannot leave behind in Georgia. I just have a quick question, and this is from the guidance side of me. In line 110, we have completes a rigorous coursework. Georgia Student Finance does define this, and I just want to make sure we're not defining it the same way they do, because their definition of rigorous is IB and advanced type courses. So where it's on 110, line 110, where it says rigorous coursework, I just want to make sure we're not connecting rigorous as the same definition as Georgia Student Finance.
No, we are not using that same definition.
Okay, so it's
we
just
can probably
there.
substitute other words for rigorous there.
So it's just regular courses
Yes, ma'am.
for
Yes.
high school graduation.
Yes,
But rigorous in there just leads to other thoughts.
Yes, ma'am. Well, and keep in mind that's current law, so that's the law that's been operating under the pilot that's been successful. So that language is a good point to bring up, but that they've been operating under that word. under those words. The Vice Chairman of the committee, Representative Barrett. Carter Barrett.
What an exciting program, and so just another great way for people to get an excellent education in Georgia. I've been so impressed with the placement rates through TCSG, the extraordinary placement rates. Are you finding the same kind of success? Would you talk about placement rates in general, and then sort of how is that materializing here? Are you getting the same kind of success?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate that question, and it's certainly something that we are proud of in terms of our placement rates. This current year, and many of you have heard Commissioner Dozier talk about it, but our placement rate, which is for us, we have two components of that. One, the one that we're most proud of is infield placement rate, and so we're at our highest infield placement rate in TCSG's history. We're roughly 93% of our students get placed directly in the field that they're taking technical courses in right now. When you add in the second component, which is follow-on post-secondary education, maybe they come to us and they've got a 2-year degree, or they've got another stackable credential and they're moving directly into further post-secondary education. We're about 99% placement rate. So super excited about those numbers. Again, most excited about the direct placement rate in terms of the career field that a student is taking courses in. And so in regards to these students, they're in the same programs that every other student that we have is, and so their success rates are included in that 93% placement rate, and we are seeing that for just about all these students also.
The first shall be last. Representative Gamble, you started us on this journey. We're going to come back to you.
I appreciate that, Chairman, your patience with me. Mark, I appreciate y'all stepping up to the plate to meet this need, because clearly the need is out there, and we've had a lot of students participate in this. But I guess this is more of a statement, Mr. Chairman. I am frustrated that our K-12 school systems that we fund are not meeting the need of our students statewide, and that we would need to do this. Now, I'm glad we're doing it, and I'm going to vote yes on this bill. But I think that we really need to have a conversation about what we're doing at the K-12 level. If we have this many students statewide, that we're having to authorize another state agency to award a high school diploma. I've said my piece, and I appreciate you.
Well, I'm going to appreciate you winding it up before I wound you down. We're not going to. That's a valid conversation, and we'll do it before a joint committee of higher ed and education. It is a fair thing, but we're going to try to remind everybody is we want to keep them questions. If we get a motion on the bill, when we get a motion on the bill, I'll allow a robust discussion, and then we can go into that area. But if we can just keep it to questions, I think it would be good. Question? No, we're here for the first look at this one today. So if you guys will hang, we have a speaker. If you guys will hang at the table, I'll ask the speaker to go to the podium, and we'll go there. Ms. Thompson, what can you add to this robust conversation this morning?
Really nothing, honestly, just the fact that we support the bill. So my name is Chelsea Thompson. I'm General Counsel of Frontline, and we support HB 217, and thank you, Representative Hong, for bringing it. I think it's pretty obvious based on what we've heard, but the benefits of this bill, as there are obvious benefits of the bill, as it offers second chances and helps re-engage students, we would say, and allow students to gain dual credentials, as was mentioned, and expound on their career development and help the workforce. So we just support the bill, and that's all we have to add. Thank you.
Thank you. And there are no further questions. So unless you I'm sorry. What would I do without the help? Now you just knocked me off the game, Molly. Go back to you to the governor's floor there. Do you have anything you want to use to close? Otherwise, we'll take this and I'll ask any in the committee if they have any further questions of the author to get with her, and we'll try to bring you back next week and move on with your proposition.
Thank you for hearing this important bill. Thank you so much for the insightful questions, and I hope that we can move this further along later.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. All right, I think we're losing people because there's a little meeting going on across the street. If y'all can hang with me here just for a bit, we have a member of our committee, Tim Representative Fleming, that wants to tell us about his proposition, HB 150 LC 610120S. And I'm told, and again, I don't mean to diminish the thing, the Appropriations Committee that's starting across the street, we're hearing from the state economist, I don't believe there's legislation going on over there. I believe it's a presentation that if we're not over there to hear, we can watch it on videotape. Representative Fleming.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate it. I'll be quick. It's a fairly straightforward bill. I have Mr. Tom Rollins with me, who worked on this piece of legislation last year and has helped this year. House Bill 150 is the same as Senate Bill 511 from last year. It passed the Senate Higher Ed Committee unanimously. It passed the Senate as a whole unanimously. It was just later in session and got caught by the clock. What House Bill 150 does, it promotes transparency in foreign funding to our higher ed institutions. That is defined in line 16, what foreign country of concern means. It's a country whose government is designated as a foreign adversary by the United States Secretary of Commerce. And that can be found online, obviously, easily. It requires the university system to report quarterly to the General Assembly and the governor and the chairs of the higher ed committees in each House and Senate of any funding received from these, foreign countries of concern. Other than simple tuition payments for an individual, it requires university systems to track and to report the type of funding, its source, and its amount, and its purpose that is going to the institutions. So, Mr. Chairman, that is the bill, and I'd happy to take any questions.
You have a question, but just to be clear, doesn't prohibit them from taking
No, does not prohibit.
It just I just want to make clear on that.
Absolutely, it doesn't prohibit.
Get involved in any of that. It just requires it to be tracked.
It does not prohibit them from taking any of these funds. It's just transparency to let us know where the funding's coming from and what it's being used for in the university system.
That's Representative Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just want to clarify on lines 23 through 25, where it talks about a foreign individual of concern, and it says that it's any individual who is domiciled in a foreign country of concern and not a citizen or lawful permanent resident. So 23. Are we calling my international students from China individuals of concern, or my colleagues, my colleagues from China, we're calling them foreign individuals of concern in the law?
If I can answer that, Representative, thank you. So, no, these are only people who are actually in China, have no residence here in the U.S., no connection with the United States. The dilemma, of course, is that there are so many connections between the Chinese government and individuals, and they have been able in the past to fund these universities in a way that really was Chinese government money. So we're certainly, and in fact, if you look at the very last line or last section of the bill, we certainly want students to come here, and so tuition is not even an issue.
Yeah, just to follow up on that. So I just want to be clear, because I know domiciled is like where you physically live. So we're not talking about people who are on like a student visa or a researchers on a work visa who technically their domicile is China, but they are currently here temporarily.
They would not be covered by this.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Martin. Representative Fleming, first want to say thank you for the bill. I think especially in the current global environment with the threats being what they are, always important to have as much transparency and reporting, certainly as to foreign monies coming into all of our institutions, including our politics. That said, I had one or two questions. One, I know an earlier version of the bill was titled "Combating Threats from China Act." I am glad to see in the substitute that it includes all foreign adversaries. Yep. I think that I saw that language in a few pieces of legislation last year, which I thought, especially if we're trying to address national security concerns, that it is broadly applicable to all countries noted by the Secretary of Commerce as a foreign adversary. I think the question may be more for Mr. Rollins. Could you speak a little more in terms of the issues and the reason for the bill? What have we been seeing over the past few years? And
certainly. U.S. House Select Committee on the Chinese Communist Party's influence has determined that over the last 10 years, the Chinese government or related entities have poured billions of dollars into U.S. universities, and the FBI and other intelligence authorities have determined that that is not our simply goodwill. Now, we did, of course, as you said, we originally were focused on China. That is the biggest funder of universities in terms of foreign adversary countries, et cetera. But let's put it this way: in Georgia lately, we brought this bill up last year, and as a result, one of our great institutions actually pulled out of China. And I think there was some concern that was raised by the U.S. House Committee that that the cooperation that China was providing to one of our universities here in Georgia was not because they love America. It was to steal intellectual property. And so the more that we can raise this issue at the state level, and as part of State Shield, which is an organization I work with, we are kind of raising this issue around the country. We believe that even having the bill, the transparency at the state level, reminds people that someone who is trying to give you lots of money may not be doing it out of the goodness of their heart if their government is specifically seeking to undermine your democracy, steal your intellectual property, et cetera. So thank you.
Could you say the organization you're with again?
It's called State Shield, so I should have said that at the beginning. I think a lot of people know me as a child welfare attorney, but I have been working the last year or so with a group called State Shield. It's a nonprofit. We don't have any dog in any fight other than our founder, Joe Gebbia, was very concerned about the influence, especially of China, in the Chinese Communist Party, and all the information we've been hearing from the defense authorities, from the FBI. And so we have been working here and in other states to raise awareness of these issues. We think it is a federal issue, certainly, but it's also something for the states to stand up and take notice of.
Thank you.
Are there further questions? Further questions to the gentleman? If not, hold tight there, and we'll ask Ms. Thompson to come back to the podium mic. We're going to have to get you more ergonomically located.
I figured there'd be more questions. I apologize. I moved over to this room before, but missed it this time. We just here to say we support the bill. We support HB 150. Representative Fleming, thank you for bringing it. Again, and like it's already been said, really does promote, I think, national security, academic integrity, and transparency, as Representative Park touched on. So thank you so much, and we ask for your favorable vote.
Thank you. Representative, do you have anything you want to close? You have no further questions? We'll invite you back again on the bill, but do you have any closing words of wisdom for us?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right. There are no further questions. That concludes our agenda this afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We will meet at 1 next Wednesday, and we will have a full agenda for that day. So plan on being with us at 1. If there are no other business before the committee, we'll stand adjourned without objection. I guess we're adjourned without objection. Boom.